All right, we're recording, Josh, so we're ready to go for this month's BlueDAG webinar. What are we going to talk about today?
Well, today we're going to talk about adding an evaluation and some of the tips and tricks behind doing so, what the different fields mean and how they will affect how your evaluation behaves once you've set it up. I'm going to go ahead and shut off my video so
Yeah, me too.
I don't quite get distracted here. As everyone knows, at least from our participants that I can see here, everyone's a current user. So everybody knows the view evaluation screen. It's the one that you come to when you first log in. And then I'm just simply going to go ahead and dive right into adding an evaluation. So I add an activity. I'm going to add the evaluation. And then you're presented with this screen. If I go to the bottom of the screen and simply hit save, you'll be able to see each field that's required. They're outlined in red. The customer, evaluation title, address, and so forth. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is start filling in these fields and explain a little bit. The customer field, when you click the drop down, will display all customers associated with you. You are able to edit any of these existing customers under Manage and My Customers. If the customer you want isn't in your drop down, you can add a customer on the fly, and all we require at the time is a name. Once you add a name, and I just selected one, you can type in any name you want, you get this little blue pop-up here, and it gives you a link that allows you, should you click on it, it'll open a new tab and allow you to fully complete the customer's information. So that way when you create your report, all the fields will be properly merged. I'm going to hold off on trying to do that until later. Unfortunately, I've got this bar that I need to move. So going back to adding the evaluation, you can put in an evaluation title. This evaluation title will show up on your report in the little box below your main cover photo if you so choose. I'm going to call this BlueDAG Offices. The address. So I'm going to go ahead and input an address I already have and click Map It. Now what's happened is the address I put in, by clicking Map It, asked Google to give me a longitude and latitude coordinates that'll help to geolocate where we are. On the right-hand side, you'll see that we now have a map of the area and a pin on, as I zoom in here, the Technicate offices. We're actually housed with our sister company, or they're housed with their sister company, Datacate. And BlueDAG is actually stored in this data center. So that's why we have it available on the cloud. We do have it stored at the Datacate data center facility.
Hey, Josh.
Yes, sir.
Can you switch to satellite view just so it'll look better? Absolutely.
So what I was trying to show here is we obviously have a map, but you do have full capability to switch to satellite. In fact, you can even use the little man and get a street view just simply by dropping him on anywhere on the road. It works just like Google Maps does. One thing I wanted to point out, there is occasionally times where you have an address that Google can't find, and so it'll throw your pin somewhere oddly. So what we have done is you can grab the pin just by clicking on it and move the pin anywhere you want. It'll update the latitude and longitude, but it will not touch your address that you've put in. So if you can't find the correct address, you can always type in a different address up here after you move your pin, and the address will stay. So for instance, there is no 2998 Gold Canal. I'm gonna go ahead and map it. See how it put me in the middle of the street here? I can move that pin to where I need it to be, and it will retain the address. I'm gonna go ahead and correct that address back to the real one. Next, we give you the ability to put in a district. Some of our evaluators do like to use the district methodology, and it's just a notation. At this time, district does not show up in your reports, but it will show up in the evaluation overview. So I'm just going to put in District 3. County is auto-filled from your address. And beyond that, we give you some data points to collect about the facility you're inspecting. Approximate year built. This is not required, but we put it in there. How many buildings you're inspecting, and then how many stories.
Yeah, it's just good to note real quick, Josh, that those fields there don't have any play in the evaluation, what codes, standards, findings, or anything like that. It's really just for the evaluator or the inspector's tracking of data for his project. Just that's it. And some people get confused that they think that has some bearing on the software or on the platform somehow.
Oh yes, that's true. We just went to the symposium in Denver, and we did have that question. They were wondering if they put in the year, does it dictate the standards? No, it does not. This is just for your reference.
And same with building type, classification, and so forth. Those are just for internal use only.
Exactly. So I'll go ahead and select both of those. The inspection type, the only inspection type that will drive the evaluation in a different manner is the CASP evaluation. It gives you a few additional choices for your reporting. I believe it gives you the, Paul, what is that, the CASP?
Yes, so for those doing like Kraska reports where you need the timeline report or the notice to property owners that's required under the CASP program. So things related to a true CASP survey as opposed to just a regular ADA or accessibility generic survey. So it includes those items in the reporting for you.
Perfect. So in this case, I'm just going to choose an ADA only. Any of these other options, again, don't influence. It's again for notation. Next, we come to checklist group.
Sorry, Josh. One thing I wanted to point out to them, whatever they select there will show up on the cover page of their report. So if they want accessibility evaluation as opposed to ADA only, that will actually print on the cover page of the report in the little project box.
Oh, that's true. I'm sorry. Yes, you're absolutely right. Next is checklist group. So in choosing a checklist group, what we've attempted to do with the checklist that we have is to allow you to filter down to suggested checklists by using this checklist group drop down. So for instance, if I chose a courthouse, we're going to show you the checklists that are most likely that you'll most likely need to use when doing a courthouse. You always have the option to see every checklist, but the suggested checklists that appear initially are driven by this choice. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just go to office building.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and additionally, if you ever see a little I, you can hover over that and it'll give you some information. Basically, this right here just tells you pretty much what I just told you about checklist groups. After that, we have an initial inspection date. I'm just going to choose today. You have a description field. Also, one thing to note, you can drag this corner and make this as large or as small as you want. We made it the size it is simply to save space on the screen. Next, we have inspector. For notation purposes, as well as if you are one of our mobile app users, you'll need to assign the inspector correctly for it to show up in the mobile app. If you don't see the inspector that you want here, you'll need to add that user and ensure that they have the inspector permission. All of that is done under your users under manage. In this case, this particular subscriber demo account only has one.
Also, the inspector will print out on the front of your report as well. So whoever you have selected there will be on the cover page of the report.
And if you choose a cover letter, the signature that you upload for that inspector will appear there as well.
Hey, Josh, we just got a question on the chat here. Before you get into the barrier standards, because I know that's kind of a biggie we need to talk about. But he asked, Craig asked, can you select more than one group? Office, building with offices, but also a church assembly?
That's a good question. Actually, at this time, no. The checklist groups are sort of a one filter. And again, the checklist group that you choose only affects the suggested checklist we initially show you. At any time, you can always click Show All Checklists, and the checklist group that you select does not show up on the report anywhere.
Yeah, now I wonder if Craig, maybe you can clarify this in the chat, Craig, were you referring to the checklist group there that Josh is talking about, or the building classification? Because up at the top at the building classification, we have had a request to build, for mixed use occupancies. You might have an office with a retail, and so people want to have, be able to select two different classifications up there. Either way, it's only one, but I believe we have a request in to have that fixed eventually up in the classification pull down to be able to select more than one building classification. But again, it doesn't have any bearing on the checklist like Josh just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So Craig, if you could clarify that just to make sure we're talking about the right thing, that'd be good.
So Craig's responded with actually both, but since the class doesn't have any bearing, this question was based on the checklist group.
Okay, perfect.
So in this case, again, it's sort of a single select, and then if you need any additional checklists, we give you the option to see all checklists. Also, if you happen to be using a checklist group and find that you're constantly using another checklist that we're not incorporating in that group, send in a support ticket. We can always make changes to which checklists show up in which groups. We do try to listen to our subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
So barrier standards, another required field, and in this field heavily influences how the evaluation will be carried out. It filters, depending on the standard that you choose, will filter the master findings available to you, either through the filter quick pick selector or in the finding search. It will also filter what checklists are available to you. In this case, should you choose a standard that it does not have a particular checklist associated to it, you will not have the option to see that checklist. We only present checklists that we've created for that particular standard. Paul, what standards would you like me to choose?
2010 ADAS and the 13 CBC supplement.
B?
Yeah, 11B. And that's, yeah, a lot of people will select like the 91 ADA or UFAS, and we don't have a ton of barrier standards. So a lot of times if you select the barrier standard that's a more obscure one, the more obscure it is, the less findings there will be in your pull down list. So if you're not getting any data, then you might very well just have a barrier standard that doesn't have a lot of findings built on it yet. Or we're adding to them. We're obviously starting with the more current ones and updating to the 16, but we're also going back and populating findings for some of these older standards. Particularly, a lot of people are interested in the 91 ADA. So those are coming and they're in process, but they're not fully populated yet.
And should you be using a standard often that we don't seem to have many findings for or checklists? Again, you can just go right up here to this little question mark and submit a ticket, just letting us know. And obviously we'll start prioritizing getting getting some findings and checklists expanded for those standards. Additionally, there's another little I here. Again, it's letting you know that the standards you choose will influence the master findings and checklists available. I forgot both of these links. So let me go back up to checklist group real quick. Checklist group mapping. Should I click on that, you get a brand new tab. And what it'll do is it will show you, if you choose this group, it will give you these types of checklists. So that may help you in choosing the checklist group that you want to use. And again, it has all of them. So you can just scroll to where you're going and ensure that you're going to get the checklist that you want.
Yeah, and the whole idea behind that, for those of you that are wondering, is, if you're doing a parking lot only evaluation, and you don't want a bunch of restroom and door checklists, muddling up your data entry. So if you pick a parking lot checklist group, you're going to get just stuff for the parking lot. However, if you run across a drinking fountain or a shower or a bathroom and you want to have the restroom checklist, you can go grab it. It's just not going to default for you, and it's just part of trying to streamline the platform so you're getting what you want. And conversely, if you're doing a medical or a hotel, you don't want a bunch of medical checklists, for patient rooms and things like that, or correction facilities. So we try to make it all available so you have access to it if you need it, but also make it streamlined so when you pull one of those defaults, it has the basic ones that you're going to need without muddling everything up for you.
Good point. The other link that we have down here is a checklist versus standard. So very similar to the checklist group mapping, what we're going to do is if you click on here, you'll be able to see the standard and then which checklists we've created for that standard. Some standards at this point don't necessarily have checklists. That doesn't mean they don't have findings, but we haven't had calls to make those checklists, or we haven't gotten to that part just yet. So a little additional tool there so you know what you're getting. And that is basically all of the fields required in order to create your evaluation. Paul, before I continue, do you have anything else to add to this page?
No, I think you covered it. The only thing I'd like to mention to Craig and those on the line that are in California, you should be able to just select the 2013 supplement now. In the past, we've said, hey, select the 13 supplement and the pre-supplement to make sure you're getting all the findings. We're just pretty much done going through that, and you should be able to you can just select the supplement now. We're pretty much through all those, and you'll get all the same data that you would, at least what's pertinent to the supplement anyway. We don't like the idea of having to pick the supplement and pre-supplement. You should be able to pick one or the other and get all the pertinent findings, and we've corrected that over the last month or so.
One additional item for standards, you have the ability to add and remove standards once you've created the evaluation in details, which I'll show you here in a moment. Should you add a finding that was under a standard that you removed, that finding will remain. However, you will not be able to add another finding like it. So just food for thought there. Then go ahead and click Save. And then you're presented with the evaluation overview screen. Just real quickly, a couple things to note. You get your evaluation number in there, your evaluation title shows up, and then all of the overview information basically is taken from data that you just inputted and can be modified in the evaluation details tab. You have the ability to add a cover photo. I think most of you understand that. You see the barrier standards that are here. One thing we noticed at the symposium is many of you don't change your status using this link, which is fine, but we do want to let you know that the link is there. Changing the evaluation status to conducting evaluation, for those of you that are our mobile users as well, in order to see the evaluation on the mobile app, it must be in conducting evaluation and be assigned to you. Many of you, from what we heard, actually use the evaluation details which again will populate very similar to what you just saw for add. But now you have the ability to add a status. You also have a re-inspections field. Other than that, all the other fields are exactly the same, and you can edit and add to them on the fly. You can even change the customer. One other thing to point out, re-inspection dates. You can add several. I could actually choose any re-inspection date I want, and there's really no limit to them. If you start populating them, you just go in and just add your additional dates. It looks like it tries to pre-populate a few of those. You can have a final inspection date and just basically change any of this information that you'd like. You can also cancel if you want, and it'll take you back to the
Josh,
overview.
question on that, on those dates. Does the report cover letter put the most current date on the front or the last re-inspection?
So in our initial testing, and I haven't looked at it in a couple months, but yes, it should. It should take the last date in any of these and put that on the cover page. Right. If it's not, let us know, but it absolutely should.
I think it does. I think I tested that and it does. And that's really helpful for, when you've done an evaluation and you come back to do a re-inspection and not having to re-input all your photos and all your findings again to do a follow-up inspection or a re-inspection. You can use that re-inspection tool and just re-update the photo and change the status in the finding or whatever. But it's really an easy way to manage re-inspections and not have to reinvent the wheel every time.
Absolutely. That's why we've added the status to each finding of open, corrected, and compliant. We have many of our subscribers do like the corrected ability. They can go in and swiftly correct a few of the findings or all of the findings and reissue a report with just a couple of clicks. Saves them a lot of time, and they don't have to go to multiple different evaluations to figure out what happened with the same site. So I believe that's it for adding an evaluation. Were there any questions? Or Paul, do you have anything additional?
No, I think that's the basic, functionality we wanted to clarify. You hit all the main topics there, how to create an evaluation, which fields affect the evaluation. We had a few tips and tricks in there. I think that covers it.
Okay. Well, we don't have a particularly huge audience today, but were there any questions, Craig, John, and Ted? Even in a different part of the site? Maybe while they're
thinking about that, Josh, we can give them a little bit of update. I know one of the new things that we just rolled out in an update in the Fast Finder is you added the names of the barrier standards, so they're a little easier to look at. There you go. Yeah.
You still have the ability to type in the main name. Actually, I haven't tried this. Let me try. Yep. So you can start typing in any portion of it, and it should pull up for you.
Yeah, it's real helpful for those that don't know what a Mac is or the 2010 FAS. It'll spell that out for you now, so you can see exactly what it is.
Yeah, that was definitely a request. For our mobile app users, a new mobile app was pushed on, I believe Friday evening. We fixed an issue with the mobile app where occasionally your drop downs wouldn't fully populate after syncing. This has been something that was sporadic, but we have actually figured out what that issue is. So if you're updated to the newest version 3.0, you shouldn't have any issues with those drop downs anymore. If you do, please report it. We appreciate any feedback that we get from you guys. Additionally, we've added a finding count. So as you add findings, just like in your findings tab in the evaluation, we give you a counter in the mobile app so that you can compare the number of findings with the number of findings in the mobile app. Some of you wanted that ability just as a quick check to make sure everything came up as it should.
Yeah, real helpful for when you're in the field and you've got 23 findings. You've done a sync, but in the portal there's only 19. You know, okay, something may not be right or isn't done yet. So that's real helpful. That's a great upgrade.
We actually haven't gotten of any complaints about syncing not making it to the portal. We did have one user that called us and had close to 600. This is actually Victor. Had close to 600 findings, and he was concerned that he only saw 540 of them at the moment. But as we were on the phone, he just kept clicking refresh, and it happened to be the app was continuing to upload this massive amount of findings. And Craig, yes, we're working on the iOS and the Windows versions right now. They are in very preliminary testing, but we are still hoping to have those out by the end of the year. Actually, per our timeline, it's looking pretty plausible that will absolutely happen.
That's the mobile app for the iPad was the question, correct?
Yes. So iOS will work on iPad and iPhone. We're going to try to test it on some older Apple equipment as well as newer Apple equipment. I know a lot of you iOS lovers happen to always have the newest gizmo, but we still need to make sure that it'll work on a slightly older hardware as well.
Yeah, and one of the things, Josh, that I know, I don't know if you mentioned it to me a minute ago before we were live, so I don't know if I should say anything, but one of the big functionality requests we've had is the photo editor in the Photos tab. I know you guys are working on that. Any updates you want to share with them, or just that you guys are still working on it?
So we are still working on it. And for our current subscribers, you guys are basically going to get the whole photo editor capability, which is you'll be able to rotate photos. And yes, I can hear the cheers from now or from here. You'll be able to crop a photo. You'll be able to apply whatever cropping that you did in that photo to a new finding or replace a photo in an existing finding. You'll be able to draw a circle in any color, an arrow in any color, and you'll be able to type in any color. Additionally, zoom in and zoom out is also there. So we're alpha testing that right now. We definitely will have that out sometime in August once we're 100% on the fact that it works.
That's awesome.
And that right there actually came directly from a subscriber request. So we do listen to you.
Yeah. Well, good. Any other updates, or I know for those, I know you've been working really hard on the whole Title II piece of BlueDAG. It's another area that that's been under development, and you've been working diligently on that. I know will that be available? That'll be available too for those Title II facilities that want to do transition plans, grievances, and things like that.
Yes, actually, we've released that out to our beta testing company. They are currently utilizing it for a couple of their Title II contracts. Their feedback is slowly starting to come in, and we're integrating that into the product just to ensure that everything is working before we release it to everybody. But it will handle grievance intake or complaint or requester intake. It will take that grievance process through to the evaluation. It'll integrate exactly into how these evaluations work now through evaluation reviews. It'll carry the grievance forward through a project where a project is then created to remediate the issue. It'll take them through the project all the way through remediation, project evaluation to ensure that it has been remediated, and then it'll finish out the grievance, updating the requester and all involved through to the end. And it's all built on sort of a workflow driven process. So the grievance drives itself for a while, and then it hands itself over to the evaluation. The evaluator then updates his evaluation, automatically updates the grievance. Grievance moves forward, gets to the project. A project's created, then the project drives the workflow, updates the grievances, it's completed, and then the grievance is taken to its end. goes all the way through. So it's a really nice holistic system. Data is collected at every step. It sends letters automatically, updating the requester, updating other jurisdictions, things like that. We've had great response from the company that's testing it out, and we're really looking forward to having it out this fall.
That's great. Exciting stuff.
Any other questions?
I'm not seeing any.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to keep this down to right about a half hour, so I think that's just about right. I guess we'll, unless you got anything else, I think we can call it a day.
I think we're good. Well, I appreciate everyone for attending. Again, we'll do this next month on a new topic. If anyone has any suggestions, feel free to email them in or type them into the chat, and we'll take a look at them.
Yeah. Any platform profiles or functionality you need a little clarification on, let us know. We might get, so I'm thinking next month might be a good one, Josh, is to spend some time in this finding screen right here. And I think we can put together some tips and tricks for that. The reorder button, customizing a finding, that kind of stuff. So we'll put something together for next month, and we'll do it again second Wednesday of next month. That'd be, let's see, what will that be? That'll be August. Let's see what that'll be. That'll be August 10th. So August 10th at 11 o'clock, we'll send out an announcement and be ready to go again.
Absolutely.
All right. Craig says thanks. Thank you, Josh. Good job. And I'm going to end it.
All right, sir. Everyone have a wonderful day.
And we will post it on YouTube, right, Josh? Or for anybody who wants to see a replay?
Absolutely. As soon as you give me the file, I'll put it on up there. It'll be there this afternoon.
All right. I'll get it to you. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Paul.
All right. Bye-bye.